2 of NCAA Day number 2 as we talk about what's going on as far as the world of college basketball is concerned. Yours truly, Christopher Russo, Bob Wenzel, Eddie Erickson, and Colin Schmeling as we chat. Lots of games are in the books. The big surprise right now is Marshall. They upset Wichita State today, the 13-5 game, their first ever NCAA tournament win. Dan D'Antoni, of course, Mike's brother. They win the game 82-75. They trailed at the half. They came back and made some big shots, ran cold Wichita State. And, of course, Marshall moves on. Everything else is pretty much what you'd expect. A&M beat Providence by 4. Purdue won big. Cincinnati won by 15, 68-53. Good performance so far by North Carolina at the half by 9. Butler and Arkansas in a white-knuckler defensive-oriented game in the low 30s. Basically, I think it's 31-29. So some close games here. A couple of games still to go, Bob. The story, though, is Marshall. Buffalo won last night, knocking out Arizona. And obviously, Loyola yesterday with the Hail Mary 3 to win it against Miami. More games to go. Obviously, 10 games still to be played, 12 to conclude. But, Marshall, your story here so far today.
No doubt about it. And you know what? Hearing you go through that lineage of what's going on yesterday and today, it makes my mind go to the thing where I'm thinking about television and I'm thinking about the calls and the shots, okay? Now, which of these shots are we going to be lasting forever down the road, right? You know, and Dante Ingram's 3 from the top of the key.
That's going to go down in here. That's a big-time shot. Yes,
E.C. Matthews, top of the key for Rhode Island when
shot.
They won.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly right.
And then Norvell from Gonzaga. Gonzaga was going to get beat. And that kid made that 3.
Big 3, yes.
You know, it's great to see all of this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, I think D'Antonio is such a character. I mean, he will be sort of like the Hampton coach when they beat Georgetown back in the day. I mean, this is a big-time thing. That's their first win ever for Marshall. Now, if West Virginia wins today, now, when they play Murray State, 2 teams from West Virginia are going to be playing against each other in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's West Virginia against Marshall, the northern part of the state against the southern part of the state. I mean, that's as good a drama as you get.
And if you saw the movie We Are Marshall, Bobby Bowden was tremendous to the Marshall football program after they lost all those players and the accident and the plane crash. The Marshall football coaches went up to West Virginia. He gave them all the film to work with and helped them change their offense to a veer offense to the passing offense. As it turns out, it was a big factor. So there is a little kinship between the two schools, I think. West Virginia's still going to win a game yet, but we might get that game on Sunday afternoon.
That would be great. You know, and the history of that and the dynamics of it really are heartwarming when you think about these kind of things.
If you're watching Marshall right now, I know it's a different sport, but if you're watching Marshall right now, you got to be thinking about what happened in 1970.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, ironically, they played Wichita State, who also had a plane crash. You know, so those 2 teams played today, and I don't know if the television people got into that at all, but heartwarming stories of survival and advancing for both of those schools.
34-29. Butler were late in his first half, so we wanted 150.5. That was a Wenzel special. No. And right now, and I don't know if we're going to get that right now. There was a foul, 125 to go. I need 150.5, Bob. Right now, I am looking at, what am I looking at? 53. So I'm in a little trouble as far as that number is concerned, correct?
Well, I'm concerned about who's going to win this game.
I will be too once I realize I can lose or win my bet. But Arkansas, you know, Arkansas trailed this game 21-2 at one point.
Yes, and Butler got a flat tire, and they forgot to continue playing when they got so far ahead, and they have bounced back now. I think Butler is a better offensive team than Arkansas. Arkansas is going to have to get it done with pressure defense in the second half against Butler. They've made them turn the ball over several times during that 21-2 spurt, and they made a couple of threes. So they're a spurt team. Arkansas will go for several minutes without scoring.
Good point.
Other points of the game, they'll get 9 points straight. So it'll be one of those back-and-forth deals with Butler.
Now, we'll see. Now, a couple of developments outside of college basketball, outside of the games, a couple of developments today. One of them, Tom Crean takes the Georgia job. You know, a lot of people think he was fired unnecessarily at Indiana, and it was tricky to fire him. And last year, of course, and 2 years ago, they had a pretty good run in the NCAA tournament. He takes the Georgia job. You and I discussed Georgia a little while ago. Not a great job with the facilities, but Crean gets a second chance. Give me your thoughts about that in the SEC.
I think it's great for Georgia. The question will be who he hires as assistant coach to dip into the very talented state of Georgia basketball players. Crean is an excellent coach. They won the Big Ten championship the year before he got fired. They have very high expectations in basketball at Indiana.
Tough place.
At Georgia,
plus you got Knight you got to deal with too.
At Georgia, they have very high expectations in football and not so high expectations in basketball. So I think that they feel Crean will bring that up. Fox had a good run. He was there for 7 years, made the tournament twice, but that's not quite good enough for what the Georgia administration wants, clearly. So I think it's I thought Crean might hold out for a better job, but he's taken this job, and I think he'll do a very good job. And I think for Georgia, it's a home run for them.
Yeah, Georgia's a hard job. They're in a good conference. It's a football state. It's very, very. That's a tricky job, Georgia. I don't think they don't have a ton of basketball tradition outside of obviously Dominique Wilkins. I think it's a tricky job. What's your take?
Yeah, they made the Final Four a long, long time ago when Durham was the coach there.
Correct.
Yeah. But there's a lot of talent in the state. Crean is an excellent X&O coach and a highly energetic, motivational type guy. They will run, they will shoot threes, they will change the way they play. I think this was a notion on the part of the administration at Georgia that we have to have a different style. Mark Fox was not a run up and down the court type guy, half court execution type thing, and I think they are looking for a little bit more excitement, and they got it with Crean.
All right, so here you have it then. So Crean goes to Georgia. That is one development today. The second development today is the Kevin Stallings scenario. What has happened there at Pittsburgh? A lot of his players, everybody had thought that maybe they couldn't wait to get him out of there. The players gave up on him and what have you. They did play a pretty competitive game against Notre Dame in the Big East, but they did not go win a game in the ACC tournament. That's a very tricky job. He was there for 2 years. I don't think Dixon left him a big cupboard. A new AD, remember the old AD left, so it's a new AD who took over. Was not a Stallings hire. And obviously they make a decision here to fire Stallings, and I'm a little surprised by the Pittsburgh reaction. The players, that is, 7 or 8 of them have said I want out. The number one recruit said I wanted out. I did not realize that Stallings had this kind of effect on his team. The team said, he treated us great. It wasn't his fault. We were going to be good next year, and they may have pulled the plug too soon if he asked the players. What's your take on that?
That's very interesting. I didn't know that until you were just telling me that in the hall, and you just outlined it there. It sounds like the players liked him. And, when I first heard that the players were all leaving, I said, okay, the ship's sinking. They want to go somewhere else where things are going to be better for them. But with your spin on this, where the players really liked him and didn't like that he got fired, and that's why they're leaving, that puts a whole different spin on this thing. I think we talked a little bit about this. They are in a difficult situation right now. Pittsburgh is a very wealthy city. Pittsburgh has had great, with Ben Howland and with Jamie Dixon, great success in the Big East. The move to the ACC was not great in my estimation
for their basketball
program.
Football team, fine, not the basketball.
Right, because they're Big East, okay? That's in their DNA. The
New
players
York,
that they
Brooklyn.
got, yes, right. They had great players from New York play there because they wanted to play at the Garden against UConn and against Syracuse and St. John's and Georgetown and all that. And now that's all gone now. So now it's Duke, and those teams are great, obviously Duke and Carolina, but it's not in the DNA, if you will, and in the minds of kids who live in the Northeast corridor right there. So I think that they have to find a whole new recruiting base, and I don't know where that is, but they've got to do something quick, because when you go 0-18 in your league, that is really laying an egg.
All right, did you think that firing was just when it was last week? 2 years is not a long time for a guy who took over from Vanderbilt. They're at Vanderbilt a long time, and I know it's a different AD. Did you think 0-19 overrid the idea he was only there for 2 years, or did you think 2 years is not enough time to see what he can do?
Well, 2 years is never enough time to build a program if you're doing it the way that Kevin Stallings did.
0-19 is really rock bottom.
0-19 is really tough. I mean, it's justified, I think. Tubby Smith is in the same situation. 2 years at Memphis, and they got rid of him. So these are coaches who have great pedigree, who have great character, morality, the whole thing. Tubby Smith and Stallings. But I mean, they're not getting it done at all on the floor, and especially in the recruiting area.
Now, you think the AD a little surprised that there has been such an outcry? She must be a little surprised that there's so much outcry, correct? You wouldn't have fired him if you knew 8 guys were going to leave your program.
Well, it puts them in a further tailspin, okay? Because now there's pressure to hire somebody. There's also pressure to sign players. I mean, you know, it's coming up, right? April's signing period. So you could be left with a team full of walk-ons if all of these kids leave. And I don't think that Pittsburgh has any. If this is all true about all of them wanting to leave and transfer, you can't hold them back. I mean, you can't do that. They lost a player last year, who was a great player, their best player, who left the program when Stallings came in and went to North Carolina, and he's playing for North Carolina right now.
Oh, he did?
Ken Williams.
Okay.
He's a very good player. So. Things are crumbling in Pittsburgh there, and if those guys all leave and go other places, the roster is going to have they're going to have to give somebody 5 years.
Do they pay well?
Yes, they are capable of playing well.
And they got a nice arena, so decent facilities, correct?
Oh, yeah, good facilities. The arena is right on campus. They don't have to go downtown. It's an unusual arena, but they get great attendance there, or have gotten great attendance there. Kids can walk to the arena. They get a great student following. And, there's large, Mellon Bank is there. There's a lot of big industry in Pittsburgh that there's plenty of wealthy people supporting that program.
Wow, so interesting what Pittsburgh might do. All right, but they got to find a young coach from a young program, a mid-major, and looking for an advancement. That's what they're going to have to do.
They got to get somebody, and they got to give the guy 5 years, because whoever, if you're coming from a good program and you say, look at what they did to Stallings, 2 years and he's out, I'm not going there. I mean, so they are in a position where they're going to have to guarantee money for 5 years at least.
Wow, good job, Mr. Wenzel. All right, North Carolina is the one game we want to keep an eye on right now against Lipscomb. We'll get that with Mr. Eddie as he's looking up, websites on baseball over-unders. We'll see if we can get ourselves organized with the North Carolina game when we come back at 1:15 here at Mad Dog Unleashed.